So, becoming the best version of yourself is actually way easier than people think. People think that it is something that you will always have struggle with, that you will have no way of ever knowing if you have reached the best version of yourself. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They go wrong because it's not an end goal you ever get to. The reason we try to become better and better people in this world is because it is a constant ongoing thing that never stops. Even when you're 80, 90 years old, you're still trying to be a better version of yourself than yesterday. Now, for the longest time, I've always had sort of this idea that maybe one day I'd become that person that I've always dreamed I wanted to be. But I knew that I was doing it wrong, completely wrong, because that person is always going to be in front of me no matter what. And that's what's so good about becoming a better version of yourself, because if you give yourself a limit, then it stops there, and you're telling me that you can't go any further than that. That's it? That's the limit? That's my question about it. Why should you even become a better version of yourself? Or why should you become the best version of yourself? You have to ask yourself that probably multiple times to understand what your why is. For example, my why is I know that I'll be able to leave something behind, leave some sort of legacy behind, even millions of years in the future when no one knows who I was. I left a legacy for a bit. The people that knew me in their lifetime, that grew up around me, or that were younger than me, and I passed something down onto them. For me, it's my little brother. Like, I want to pass something down onto him. We're 7 years apart. It's not very much, but still, I feel like I'm passing it down. And if I have any, future generations in the family that are beyond that, I want to be able to pass something down. I want them to be able to say, wow, Uncle Ben or or Ben or my great grandfather Ben, he was just this amazing guy and he did all these things. And not just only that, but like them having a deep understanding and a good understanding of who I was. I don't have like the best understanding of who my great grandfather was. I have beautiful understandings of my grandparents, but beyond that, it stops, and I don't want it to stop. I want it to sort of go on for at least a couple generations. I mean, come on. Wouldn't anyone want that as well for their legacy? I mean, that's my why. That's why it's important for me. Maybe for you, it's important to become the better version for yourself, for your kids, or for your family, or for someone who you want to become a better version of yourself for. Let's say you have a partner and you want to be better for them. That's also your why. Why? Because I want to have a good presence. I want to leave a good impression on my employers. I want to leave a good impression on my clients. I want to leave a good impression on everyone I work with, everyone I talk to, everyone in my family, friends, everyone. And that could be your why as well. So first, ask and answer that question. Why is it important to me to become the best version of myself? And once you get that, then it's like, that's the hard part. Everything else is easy. Well, the benefits you'll get from becoming a better version of yourself is you'll be healthier and happier, number one, but you'll start leaving a better impression on the people around you. Now, you actually have no idea what you look like around other people. No one does. And it's very hard to put yourself in their shoes, especially when they know what you look like, but you don't. You're just like, well, I look like this, but that's how you see it. Everyone's perception is different. So you got to also think about, how do you come across to other people like? Do you come across as aggressive? Do you come across as too shy, not confident? Do you come across as someone that they don't really align with, or they don't really would understand that they have any value in you because you're just not a great presence in their life? You need to ask those questions, and you need to talk to the people, especially in your inner circle. This should just be locked, but everyone that you talk to and meet, you need to understand what their perception of you is. And I'm not saying that like, oh, this person said this about me, or this person judged me, or I made this YouTube video and everybody thought it was cringe. I'm not talking about the haters. I'm talking about the people that are in your everyday life that tell you that you're fine, but deep down inside they sometimes have thoughts like, oh, wow, that comment he just made, that really hurt. But they're not going to tell you that because they're your friend, or they're your family, or they're your brother, mother, sister, father, whatever. They're not going to tell you that because they're not comfortable talking about that. They just keep it to themselves. And that's when you ask questions. You've got to know how you're perceived. Because if you know how you're perceived, you know how you can change it. You don't even know if you're impacting people's lives negatively or positively. You just sort of get this gist because everybody says it's all good, but in reality, it might not be. So you got to ask those questions. There's so many benefits to becoming a better version of yourself, and that was just a few of them. But the number one thing is how you're perceived and who you really are inside. Like, you could be this really bad guy, but you're perceived as this really bad guy, but inside you're actually a sweetheart. You know, there's lots of those cases. And the opposite as well. You need to know how you're perceived as a person, especially if you want to create a good environment for family, kids, children, people around you. And honestly, being able to share your wisdom. The reason I do this is because I'm able to share my wisdom with you guys. And I'm able to work on something bigger than myself. So that they're just some of the benefits. They're some of the benefits that you should take into consideration, because they might just save your life from certain things. But the most important thing is understanding who you are as a person. Once you understand who you are as a person, then you'll smash it out of the park. And for the longest time, I didn't understand who I was as a person at all. I didn't understand who I was as a person. I didn't understand the type of person I wanted to be either. I didn't even know what I wanted to be. And I honestly struggled for the longest time. I really needed help. I needed people in my life to tell me, hey man, have you thought about this? You should try doing this instead. Or, tell me something about my character, maybe something I need to tone down or alter. But don't do what everybody says. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying be wary of what you could possibly look like or be perceived as. So how can you become the best version of yourself if you're on your own? No people, no friends, no one to help you. And this is really hard, because I honestly needed people in my life that were had better heads on their shoulders than me, more aligned, more understanding, more organized with everything they're doing in their life. I needed those people in my life for myself to grow. But if you're on your own, it's a completely different story. I remember last year I talked about in that last video, I talked about last year I had that spiral that just went all the way down, and I crashed. And at the very bottom, I'll put it in the description, but at the very bottom of that decline, I actually wrote the Sustainable Mindset Guide. And that was something that helped me get a little bit out of the hole that I was already in. So that doesn't really happen very often. I don't know many cases where people have had no money, had no life, and then they've written an ebook. But I just wrote how I felt and what I thought I could do to change it. And for the most part, 70% of the stuff that I wrote in there was accurate for my current situation at the time. And I was able to use that and read my words and go, oh shit, and then get back up. But if you're doing this on your own, if you're trying to become the best version of yourself, I think the number one best thing you can do is ask questions. Ask questions. Ask the questions that you need to know the answer for in order for you to become the best. It's like real life feedback, right? You get feedback online for products. It's like a real life feedback thing with like people in your inner circle or people around you. Even people that maybe you have no friends, no one in your life, nothing whatsoever because you're not social, right? Maybe you can work on building that part of you, becoming more social, because ultimately becoming social will get you, not only keep you alive, but it will keep you in the circle of life. Maybe you have a conversation with someone, and then at the end of that conversation, let's say it was a random person, right? I know it's scary, but let's say it was a random person. You had a full conversation, 20 minutes, and at the end of that, you asked the question, what can I do to improve how I was able to make that conversation happen? Was there anything that was off? Was there something that I could have improved for later? Or maybe people you work with. What can I do to improve my presence around you? Literally, what can I do to help you help me? All right. So that's really it. It comes down to just, I know it's all capability and what you're capable of, but I reckon if you do it for the long enough, and if you do it for the right amount of consistency and the right amount of dedication towards having meaningful actions and meaningful goals, then you'll be fine, and you'll become the best version of yourself, and you'll do all the things you wanted to do. The number one thing from this video, the whole takeaway, is ask more questions. That's it.